I'm Sam,
I'm Cindy.
and we are the Doryvilles. So, I'm starting to enjoy doing this. I'm starting to be a little bit more comfortable. Do you feel the same way?
Well, it's been a little difficult to fit it in because we have to wait till the evenings and after kids go to bed, and I've been tired. Holidays were a lot of fun, but exhausting.
For sure.
So, feels a little bit like work, but once we get going, I enjoy it.
Yeah. So, but part of this being able to kind of peel the onion back and show more layers of ourselves and more layers of a story has been a little bit therapeutic for me. I truly feel like that. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I think it's been fun to actually recall our whole process and see how far we've come and see God's hand in all of it. So that's been nice to recall.
Yeah, we've definitely gone through a lot of challenges. One of the things that I want to mention to you guys is if you have any questions, if you have any thoughts about different subject topics or how this video vlog is going, Real Life Remix, we're talking about some real subject topics, real material. It doesn't look like anything else that anybody else is doing. So just hit comment if you think it's going well, or if you can relate to it. We would greatly appreciate that.
Yeah, we also love questions too. So if you have any questions about anything that we've talked about, we'd be happy to answer them.
Yeah, one of the reasons why we put this together is we wanted to dive deep. And if you've tuned in, you've noticed that nothing that we talk about is surface level. It's all kind of deep, and I kind of like that.
Yeah, we're definitely being transparent and sharing a lot because other people's stories have helped us through our journey, and we hope to do the same for others.
Yeah, for sure. So today, what we're going to be talking about is our birth story, also standing in the gap, and also becoming parents for the first time, which was scary and joyful at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you're interested in more of our content, please hit like and subscribe.
So I wanted to just start off and ask you, what does motherhood mean to you?
It's something that I always envisioned for myself. I believe it was third grade, when the teacher asks you, what do you want to be when you grow up? I might have written teacher as one option, but I definitely wrote mom as an option. I always saw myself as a mom. I wanted to be a mom. Anytime I saw a baby, I was automatically attracted to babies.
Mm-hmm.
My mom is one of 7, so I'm one of the older cousins. So as more and more cousins were being born into the family, that was like my little baby. I had to go hold them, and I just always thought, that was something in my future. And all the careers pretty much that I had from the time I started working till now. Now we're obviously doing construction and doing our own business, but everything else besides that was geared towards children, being a teacher, working in camps, aftercare, all that sort of stuff. So I've always just loved being around kids.
Yeah, I think, like I mentioned in one of the earlier videos, that was one of the first things that I noticed about you is I definitely picked you as a mom first before I picked you for myself, because that was an important, element in.
Who does that?
not that many. I can't tell you one guy that could say that they operated or done it like that, but that was just me because I just held family in high regard, and I think you probably picked up on that pretty early on with me, that was an important element for me.
Yeah. So what does being a father mean to you?
So when I watched my dad and I observed kind of how he moved and the importance of family to him, it was literally everything. And my dad was a little bit different than other dads, than other dads. I would just watch him function and operate and serve his family, and he would literally just run circles around my mom. If you ask her opinion, it's opposite of that. But everybody that knew him and saw him and watched him work and operate knew that he was a guy that truly loved his family. So immediate family, which was, his wife, his kids, but then, also his siblings back in Haiti. He would always do whatever he could to provide for him and provide for them. And he, the crazy thing, they literally thought he was rich. But I think everybody in the country kind of think you're rich if you live in America. But the reality is we're running as fast as we can to pay as much bills as we can. But just that was just the extent of his heart, because he would just do, whatever it took for family and our immediate family. So that was a great example. So for me, when I watched him function and operate, that was definitely something that I wanted to kind of live up to the bar that he kind of set. So for me, family has always been, pretty big for me.
Mm-hmm. And I see that. I see you serving as he did, and I appreciate you doing the dishes this week. That was helpful.
I had to do my thing, right?
Doing some laundry today, folding some stuff.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
I'm trying. Yeah, I'm trying to do my thing, trying to pick up the pieces where I think they need to be picked up at and be active, as much as possible.
Yeah. Obviously, post-Christmas, there's so much cleanup that needs to be done. And as you clean up, the kids are just playing with their toys and making more mess everywhere. So Sam took the kids to a wrestling match today for a couple hours, and that gave me time to clean in peace and actually be productive, and that was very helpful.
So I didn't tell you, but I was in the car, right? So and I'm driving the kids, and I decided to say our mantra, right? And I'll share our mantra. This is our mantra every morning with the kids. Today I choose to be great. Today I choose to be great.
I will listen well.
I will listen well. I can't even come up with it right now. But anyways, I was saying our mantra, right? And at the end, I always have some sort of talk, and I'm talking about whatever. But today I was talking about appreciation, just learning to appreciate what you have and where you're at, and da 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 da. So after I said that, Caden goes, "Daddy, what's appreciation?"
I'm glad you asked, son.
Which is kind of how it happened. I was kind of like, I was happy that he asked that, and I was able to explain what appreciation was to him, because he never really heard it before. But the older kids have kind of heard it, because that's something that we thump into them all the time, to learn and appreciate where you're at, what you have, everything. And I truly have that because I've seen something very different. So I thought that was a good little thing that happened today.
Yeah. And speaking of appreciation, do you want to share what you did with Kayla this past weekend? Because we've been having a lot of struggles with her not appreciating things.
Yes. All right. So this was, I consider this my first big daddy nugget life lesson that I had to drop on her today. So here's some of our struggles. Very, very selfish, very self-centered, a lot of I want, not a ton of please and thank you without reminders. We've been coaching it up for almost 2 years, and
over
2 years, right? And it didn't really set in. So what I came up with, and I thought which was appropriate, was to fix it through serving. And what that looked like, fixing it through serving, was every year around the holidays, I put together these hygiene kits for the homeless, and I would go out downtown, Fort Lauderdale, and I would serve these hygiene kits, to the homeless. It's something that I do. I do it by myself, not attached to any church or anything like that. It's just something that I do, and something that I talked about wanting to do, with this family at some point. So because some of the frustrations were high with the I want and the no thank yous and the not appreciate.
It was really spurred on by a bedtime conversation. I'm laying in bed, tucking her in, rubbing her back, and she said, "Mommy, I don't like this room." And I said, "Oh, what don't you like about it?" Thinking maybe it's the shadows or the lighting or it's too dark or something to that effect. She proceeds to say she doesn't like the sport pictures on the wall, and she doesn't like the bookcase, and she doesn't like the play kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that point, I was very frustrated. Like, these are very nice things.
For sure.
We took time to actually make the bookcase match the kitchen, and we made the kitchen an upgrade with a backsplash and gold hardware.
Uh-huh.
And everyone who comes into the room is like, "Wow, this is such a nice room."
Exactly.
And I mean, she obviously is entitled to her opinion. She can like her own things and like things differently. But for her to just say she doesn't like any of that, it made me realize, how little she appreciates many of the blessings that she has. Her bookshelf is full of books, like over 100 books. And she loves to read, so we need a bookshelf. But the fact that she was just like, "I don't like that bookshelf,"
mm-hmm.
that was what spurred it on.
And I didn't grow up with any books. I didn't grow up now with not one. Well, Ticket Soup for the Soul, right? But it wasn't my reading level, at the time. So just these small things that she doesn't appreciate, but that I do appreciate that we do have in our home, because reading is definitely a big area that foster kids often struggle in, because they're often behind. And I could look at that because I was behind, and what that would have done for me if I had books and different things like that, right? So I appreciate that, but she didn't. So I said, okay, we're gonna fix it through serving. The first thing that I did was I showed her some videos of Haiti, where I came from. This is where life originated from. So I wanted her just to see and understand what other life looks like, because she hasn't seen life outside of her lens. So I showed her some videos. She was like, "Oh wow, Daddy, some people, kind of live like that or whatever." I'm like, "I'm just showing you this is where Daddy's from. So this is, why you should appreciate where you're at and what you have, because not other people have stuff like this, right?" So the big setup was, we're gonna serve. I didn't tell her a lot of details, but I told her, make sure you say Merry Christmas to everybody, and make sure you are showing the Christmas spirit and you appreciate. So we get downtown Fort Lauderdale. I set her backpack up. We have a lot of cookies already set up. We have notes that says, Merry Christmas, Jesus loves you, you are not forgotten, in every cookie bag. And then she's wearing the backpack with the cookies, and then I come out with a box with all of the hygiene kits. And then when I come out, it's a scene, because they flock towards you, right? And once they flock towards you, I'm saying, "Hey, say Merry Christmas, say good evening, good afternoon, da 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 da," which is all normal things that we would say. And she kind of just froze up. But I made sure that I continued to say Merry Christmas to each and every person. I spoke to each and every person when I handed them the hygiene kit, or I handed them the cookies. I said Merry Christmas and stuff like that. And then she kind of, froze up a little bit. And then there was this one lady that was trying to really engage with her, and she was just kind of stuck. She couldn't really engage, but I would have wished that she would have, engaged. But I think it was just kind of a learning moment. So there was a couple of things that I saw coming out of that. Right. So one thing I was able to point out to her is did you see their appreciation when they received the hygiene kits or the cookies and stuff like that? She said, yes, Daddy, I was able to see. And then I was able to tie in her story. Originally, her bio mom was homeless, and while she was pregnant with them, so there's a tie into understanding. Hey, listen, this is kind of where things started for you, right? And for me, I grew up around the activity in the streets and stuff like that. A lot of homeless people. They didn't bother anybody. They just you have the wrong cards, you could end up homeless, and a lot of foster kids end up homeless. So that was the full tie-in to all of the elements that I kind of wanted to show her, and was able to kind of express that to her. And I think it hit her. I think it hit her. It didn't fully hit her
For a
yet.
day.
I didn't fully hit her yet, but I think it hit her. I think it hit her. Because
I think it was definitely eye-opening for her.
Mm-hmm. Because I give her reminders. Remember where you came from. Yeah, it's just so you know, right? It don't look like this for everybody. Just so appreciate where you're at, because it can be very different, right? So, all right. So let's jump in. Let's jump into our birth story. So the last place we left off, Cindy was pregnant. We're getting ready to have a home birth. That's what we kind of decided on. She's 40 weeks pregnant. So I'll just kind of let you take over from there.
Yeah. Well, let's just rewind a little bit.
Okay, sounds good.
So I found out December 28th, 2019, that I was pregnant, and I told you on New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
But our insurance was changing January 1st.
Yep.
And our previous OBGYN was no longer on there. So now all of a sudden I have nowhere to go and I have to find somebody real quick. Luckily, I found someone who could get me in pretty quickly. It was someone in Coral Springs. It was a very small office. He was the only doctor, which ended up being a huge blessing, because then March 2020, COVID hit, everything shut down.
Yep.
Pretty much any other office, husbands were not allowed. So it was a blessing for us that this particular office allowed him to come to every visit, because, we tried for so long. If he wasn't able to be a part of that journey, it would have been very upsetting.
Very. They would have sucked.
So that was a blessing for us to have that experience. But he was not very natural minded. There were a couple comments that I had made or questions I had asked, and I didn't really like his responses. So the thought of having to deliver in a hospital, especially still had all the COVID restrictions going on. At the time, they were allowing husbands because it was later in the year, but we would both have to be masked the whole time. No one else could come. So it wasn't that appealing to have to deliver in a hospital. So at 32 weeks, I made the decision, let's look for a midwife. I really want to just try for a home birth. I feel much more comfortable. I don't want to wear a mask. I want, people to be able to come visit.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to be more relaxed, because we tried for so long. I wanted it to be as positive an experience as possible. So 32 weeks, we find our midwife, see her up until the 40-week mark. And then I go past the due date. We have, I think, until week 41 that the backup OB, you have to have a backup when you have a midwife, just by state law. If I went any further than 41, then he wouldn't cover if there were any issues. So luckily I believe it was 40 weeks and 3 days, I had actually taken a midwife's brew drink that day, but we were at a friend's house, and 9:30 at night, my water breaks. And we ended up hanging out for a couple more hours. Drove home, got home around midnight. Still wasn't really having any contractions, maybe some slight cramping. Went to bed. as I'm laying in bed around 12:30, he passes out right away. 12:30, I feel my first contraction. I was like, ooh, so that's what it feels like. So they start coming, and they're coming pretty quickly, right away. So I decided to let him sleep. I'm going to go out and watch some TV in the living room for a little while, see, if it continues. And it did. So I was like, I guess I'm not going to sleep, but I'll let him sleep because he needs it. And my midwife had called, I believe, 2 a.m. to check in because I called her right when my water broke. And I said, yes, the contractions are coming now. So she said, okay, try to get some sleep. Call me when it gets to the, 511. So contractions every 5 minutes or less, lasting for a minute, and this going on for over an hour. So around 6:30, Sam wakes up, and I had been tracking it for a while, and I was pretty much at that level, the 511. Some of them would go a little bit longer than the 5-minute gap, but I was like, I think it's time to call her. And Sam's like, what has been going on? I didn't even know you were feeling anything.
I literally woke up. Thank you. This is how sweet Cindy is. She just let me sleep while she kind of goes through these contractions and stuff like that. So this is our first baby. We've never seen this before. But so I woke up and then I saw her. She's out. She's on the ball and she's in the living room. I'm like, wait, what's going on? This has been going on the whole time. You've been kind of going through this and stuff like that. And you didn't even tell me. You didn't wake me up. Yeah. And then she was like, no, I was just gonna just let you sleep. And then when it got closer, then kind of just let you know. And I feel bad that I was just passed out, but
But I mean, there's nothing he could have done anyway, so it was better for him to be rested. I was watching some shows, sitting on the ball, like you said, bouncing around, trying to do, the movements that they tell you to do. So when he woke up, I was like, I think it's time to call the midwife. So we called, and she got there probably around 7:30, so about an hour later. And when she got there, she checked me. I think she said I was like 5.5, transitioning to 6. So I was progressing pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
So we were excited. We're like, okay, this is going good. And then I'd say that's pretty much where it started stalling out from that point.
I would agree.
I went probably hours. And then when she checked me again, I think I may have gotten to 7 centimeters. So then she called a doula to come, who she partners with. And she came. They were assuming the baby was probably not in the best position. I think you can tell where the heartbeat is. So he may have been turned a little bit. So the doula came to try to reposition him. So they had me going through all these different exercises, and I think it's called a ribobo or whatever that cloth is they put around your belly, and they try to shift you around. And then they had me doing inversions where your knees are on the couch and your hands are down on the ground. But I'm still having pretty strong contractions through all this, so this is hard and difficult. But they finally got to a point where they felt like the baby was in a little bit better position, so let's kind of take a step back and see if the labor progresses. Also during this time, we're switching from the shower to standing to laying. We had the tub set up in the living room. Yep. It was actually a very nice environment. Sam did a good job setting it up.
Yeah, I had some nice, what type of music?
I think it was just spa music or meditation music.
Yeah, I had nice, lavenders.
In the diffuser.
In
the
the
fake
air,
fireplace
going. It was peaceful. I liked that vibe. That was actually a really good. I felt
it felt really good.
Peaceful vibe for sure. Yeah.
And the great thing about laboring at home is that you can eat and you can drink. So in the beginning, I had a good breakfast. I had a lot of fruit. I was drinking water. As it progressed, they're trying to get me to drink and eat, and I was like, I can't do anything right now. But so the doula came, got the baby repositioned. We waited to see how it progressed, got back in the tub in the living room, The contractions were definitely getting stronger. I was like, what can we do for pain? And they're like, yeah, pretty much nothing.
Yeah, at that
Just
point.
try different positions.
Yeah.
So then at probably around 8:30.
Mhm.
She checked.
How long has it been at this point? How long have you been going through these contractions and going through?
So contractions started 12:30 a.m.
Mhm.
and now 8:30 p.m. So
Okay.
a day or half a day, almost a full day.
Yeah.
8:30, she checks. I'm 9.5 centimeters with a cervical lip, which I don't know exactly what that means, but
Mhm.
when she checked, she cleared the cervical lip, and then I was 10 centimeters. So she's like, you can push. I
Mhm.
was like, wait, like right now? But all the stories that I had read, because we did the Mama Natural birth course,
Mhm.
and it was like 7 weeks. We watched the videos together. We practiced the moves. We practiced several different things.
Yeah.
But I was also part of the Facebook group, and everyone posts their birth story after the birth. So I would read through everyone. Every time I saw one come up, I would read through it. And everyone talks about these transitions and then the natural urge to push. So when she said, okay, you're 10 centimeters, you can start pushing, I had absolutely no natural urge, which I should have voiced and advocated for myself.
For
but, you know, in hindsight,
Mhm.
you think about the things you could have done.
Yeah.
But in the moment, it was like, all right, let's get this baby out. So she
Mhm.
says I can push, so let's start pushing. So we tried pushing on the bed. I was having horrible back pain. I said, this is not going to work. So we tried in the tub. We have a little like step up seat in the tub. So we tried in there. Didn't really make much progress. We did the sling over the door so that I could squat. We tried that position.
We did.
That was hard,
Mhm.
but didn't make much progress. So I literally pushed at home for about 2 hours.
Yeah.
And at 10:30, she pretty much gave me the option. She's like, okay, we can keep trying for another hour and see if you progress. But he doesn't seem to be getting any closer. He's not dropping down any further. So the other option would be to go to the hospital.
All right, hold on one second. Meanwhile, every picture in our is it sonogram?
Yeah.
He likes to
Every
hang out. Ultrasound. He likes to hang out like this, right? And his arm is like in the way, and he was blocking his face. So that's kind of how his.
Yeah, I always
was.
joked the whole time. I was like, watch him come out like this.
Yeah, and he was hiding the whole time.
But obviously, like we tried to reposition him, and we were hoping he'd be fine, ready to go. Also, during some of these transitions, I was sitting on the Swiss ball in the shower, and I fell off the Swiss ball, and I may have readjusted my tailbone, which could have caught him up as well.
Yes.
But aside from that,
yes.
He wasn't really getting any further down. So I had been up since probably 8 o'clock Friday morning, and now it's 10 o'clock Saturday evening.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I'm exhausted.
Yes.
So I decided, all right, let's just go to the hospital. He's not getting any closer. I still don't have that natural urge. So I was like, I feel like I'm just making myself more tired. The contractions were actually starting to get a little bit farther apart. So they gave me some natural things to try to make them stronger, but it didn't seem like it was helping. So the closest hospital, they didn't really like the doctors. So they sent me to Broward, Fort Lauderdale. And I was actually super happy with the experience that we had there, all things considered.
I would agree as well. I liked Broward setup.
Yeah. So we get there. They called ahead. They had to clean up everything. We didn't have a hospital bag packed, so Sam threw some things in a bag.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to the hospital after midnight. And then they had to separate us. Again, COVID. So they didn't actually even test you, right? They ended up just testing me.
You. Yep.
So I was in a room while they tested me, got the results, and then they had a room open up in labor and delivery. So we go in there, and I'm waiting for an epidural so that I can take a nap, because I've been awake for so long. I just need a nap before I continue pushing. So, of course, there's an emergency C-section going on, and there's only one anesthesiologist, and she's assisting the C-section, so I have to wait till she's done, which is another 2 hours.
Mm-hmm. Not fun. This is a not fun process.
Yeah. So it's literally Sam and I in this room in the dark, waiting. And now the natural urge to push comes, but we're just alone in the room, and I can't fight it. So I bear down when I feel it coming, and I'm like, I think I'm peeing and pooping, and it was not pretty.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel like he was still really any closer at that point, so I didn't feel like we had to call somebody. But I was starting to go more with the urge to push. Finally, around 2:30, the anesthesiologist comes in. They make him leave.
Because they don't want you to see the needle going in just in case something happens. Liability. I'm just letting you know right now.
Yeah, I forget what the reason that they actually gave. Sterilization or something.
Nonsense. That's what it is. All right.
But
Yeah.
I've been at 10 centimeters for now 6 hours, and I'm still having strong contractions. So I'm sitting there waiting in between contractions to try to get this done really quick. And thank God the anesthesiologist was very good and very accurate, and she got it in one try, and it started working right away. So then I just took a 2-hour nap, and it was wonderful.
Yeah, we both took a nap. We were able to rest. It actually felt good.
Mm-hmm. But then 4:30, the doctor comes in, and she's like, okay, nap's over. Time to start pushing again.
Mm-hmm.
My contractions, as I said, had been spacing out a little bit more. So they did start me on Pitocin to make them closer together and stronger. And I start pushing again. And I push, and I push, and I push
Mm-hmm.
for probably 2 hours. And then the doctor comes back in, and she checks, and she's like, okay, you probably have at least another hour. So I'm going to go, and I'll come back. And I was like, another hour?
Yeah.
Like, at this point, I was like, this is ridiculous. So the first 2 hours were fine because I'm pushing and I still have the epidural, but the epidural starts wearing off. And there's a button you can push that's supposed to give you a little bit more medicine, and I'm pushing it, and it's not helping at all.
It's not working. Not at all.
But they wanted me to be able to feel it to push.
Yeah.
So they didn't really care that it wasn't working. They're like, well, you need to feel it to be able to push.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time he actually came, I'm pretty sure it was back to being pretty much a natural labor, because I felt everything. I did not feel numb at all.
Yeah.
But it did take, she came back an hour later. She was like, okay, you're still going. At 8 a.m., I believe that was their shift change time.
Yeah.
And he still wasn't out. But by this time, you know, everyone's kind of invested.
It's close. It's close.
Invested.
It's
Yeah,
close.
I'm close. You can see every time I push, his head like pokes out. Then as soon as I stop pushing, he goes, eat.
It goes back in. Right. So
Pushing is right there, and I'm like, eat.
what I've heard a lot of things from guys, especially they'll say, you know, childbirth, it will change your life, right? Just because, not just because of the baby, but just the whole scene of everything. And I just remember, you know, being there, holding your leg, and kind of coaching you up and doing the counts and watching the monitors and stuff like that. And the doctor said to me, it was like, I need you in the room with me more often.
Yeah, he had one leg, and then
Yeah.
there was a med student
Yes.
who had the other leg.
Yeah.
She was awesome. She was so good. She was
good.
She was very sweet, and she was a great help. So they were working, and then the doctor came back in, and she's working, and then about 8:30, he's so close. But like I said, every time I stop, he keeps going back in. And it's already half an hour past the shift change now.
Yep.
They were staying. They were determined to see this through. So they're staying with me. But at 8:30, she was like, I think we should either try an episiotomy or the vacuum. And I didn't want to be cut, so I said, okay, let's try the vacuum. Luckily, she barely needed to use it, just that little bit of extra help.
Yep, got the head
And
right
the
up.
next push, he popped out, but he did have his hand right up there.
Stuck right here.
So that's the reason why I had to push for so long and he was not coming out, was because that hand was just enough to keep him stuck. So luckily he came out, but I did have a couple tears. I really wanted to do delayed cord clamping, at least 5 minutes, if not longer.
They
But
probably gave you 2.
no, she
In 1 minute?
at 30 seconds she was like, okay, I was like, no.
I remember that.
She's like,
yeah.
okay. And she gave me a minute, but I was bleeding a lot. So she's like, we got to deliver this placenta ASAP. So they
Yes.
clamped it. Sam cut it. And then she pretty much just reached in and grabbed the placenta out of there.
I wasn't paying attention, so I pivoted, right? I did see a lot of blood.
Yeah,
there was
I
a
didn't push to
lot.
deliver that. She pretty much just grabbed it out.
Yeah, there
and
was a
then they
lot
gave me
going
the
on.
shot in the leg.
I shifted towards focusing on baby just to make sure that we stayed natural there, and nothing really happened there, and watch the weight, watch all of the testing, etc. And then while they kind of sewed you up.
Yeah, so they gave me the shot in the leg to stop the bleeding. She stitched me up. Baby was doing great. We were against the eye goop and the Hep B vaccine. So Sam was making sure that he did not get any of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also really wanted to keep the placenta because I wanted to have it encapsulated. And I was going to take that to help with postpartum depression and try to avoid that. I heard that was a great help. So my midwife actually did the encapsulations. So they saved that for me. They put it in a cooler. Our midwife came and picked it up. And by the time, we got back home, she pretty much had that ready for me. As soon as I was stitched up, baby was, given to me skin to skin. So we did that for a little while. And then I feel like we weren't in the room that long.
No, we weren't in the room that long. Yeah.
Yeah, it was shift change. They're like, okay, we have a room for you. And it was a nice room.
It was a
we
very
didn't
nice
have
room.
to share with anybody.
Nope.
We were very happy with the accommodations.
Mm-hmm.
It was clean. It was quiet for the most part.
Yep.
Except for all the people coming in and out to check everything.
That was a nightmare, right? So when you're in the hospital giving birth, you're not going to rest at all. They're not there to let you rest, not even for an hour. Everybody's doing a rotation. Everybody has something to check. And, obviously she explained to you how long we've been up, and she'd been up for so long, and they're testing and prodding and coming in. And then all I wanted to do was just rest for a few hours. So it kind of got to me, and I kind of like, yeah, don't come in here anymore. Don't do it.
Yeah.
And
because my water broke so early,
mm-hmm.
I think after 16 hours of your water being broken, they recommend antibiotics just in case. So my midwife had given those while I was still at home. But then because it was still so much longer after that, they wanted to do another course of antibiotics, which I think they did while I was still in labor. The shot that they gave for the bleeding caused my blood pressure to spike. So then they wanted to give me some additional medications for that, which I declined. And luckily, that came back down pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But then, all the testing for the baby, they want to do hearing, they want to do the heel pricks, they need to keep checking the weight, whatever else they were checking. It just seemed like they were constantly in and out. And, baby's trying to sleep.
Yeah.
I'm trying to sleep because I'm exhausted.
Uh-huh.
But they're coming in like, okay, we got to wake up the baby now.
And you're just like, baby's sleeping. Like, what are you guys talking about? Right. So that was probably the only downside, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it was a great experience considering we were very against the hospital and wanted a home birth so badly.
Mm-hmm.
And, overall, it ended up being great. The doctor, I couldn't have asked for for a better, more supportive doctor. And then having the med student was actually an additional blessing.
For sure. Right. So we're in the room now. Things are settled-ish because they're constantly doing rounds, constantly checking. And then I'm getting to hold him for the first time. And I share my thoughts. So here were my thoughts after he was born. All right, so I'm sitting here, and this is day one of being a father. A few thoughts that come to mind right now is, obviously, it's because it's mine. Yeah, I'm gonna say he's cute, but I really do think he's cute. I'll show him to you. Hold on 1 second. It's a nice little mix of both. He's been doing well today. He's been sleeping most of the day, giving us the opportunity to catch up. We had a rough couple days, leading up to this. So some of the thoughts that come to mind right now is, I got to do my job. Right? Well, what does that mean? My job is to prepare him for life, prepare him for, obstacles that's going to be thrown his way. We know there's going to be a lot of different things that are thrown his way. We know that the world is a crazy world right now, and may view him as something that he doesn't see as himself. But there's one promise that I have, is that he's going to be prepared to be the man that he needs to be, the brother, the athlete, the businessman, the human being. Those are the things that are important to me, and those are the things that are important to my family. So, this is a different moment. It's a life-changing moment, because it's a first. Just wanted to just share, those thoughts. So I'm quite often a very deep thinker, and I'm thinking about, my son. I'm thinking about his life, and I'm thinking about, all of the potential challenges he may have to go through, coming into this crazy world. And it was 2020. So the world was the craziest it could possibly be, So I had a lot to think about when it came to, him and, the life that we want to kind of create and bring him into.
Mm-hmm. And I would say, so many moms say, oh my God, once it came out, it was just this unconditional love. And I'll be honest, I didn't feel that. I don't know if it was the exhaustion from having been awake for so long and pushing for so long, or if it was just the whole journey, because we had many losses and we tried for so long. It was almost like a disbelief, okay, he's actually ours. What if something happens now? I still felt like I couldn't connect because I felt like I could lose him. Mm-hmm. So it was hard for a little while. Yeah. So once again, we talk about the robbery that trauma created with the many losses that we've had. I felt the same way. And I would have this open conversation with you, do you feel anything? And, for a few months, I think it took about almost 3 months.
2 months.
2 months for you, right? You caught yours first. And then mine was more between 3 and 4 months. I was like, do you feel anything? Do you kind of feel this thing that everybody talks about? Everybody always says, oh my God, it was instant love. And I'm kind of like, no, no, I didn't.
I love him.
I love him. You're right. I know I love him, but I'm not like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. I just didn't have that feeling. Mm-hmm. And if you do have that feeling, very similar to us, that is normal. I don't know the experience of, oh my God, this is amazing love instantly.
Yeah, I feel like not as many people talk about that, but since that experience, I've heard, it's a much more common thing than people realize. Mm-hmm. It does obviously take time to connect with this human that you just met. You
For
know,
sure.
anywhere else in the world, you just meet somebody. It's rare to have that instant connection.
Correct.
So even though, you know, he was inside me for so long and I dreamt about who he would be and what he would look like, I felt like the infertility journey did rob me from a lot of that joy, and did make me question if it was like really real. Is he here to stay? Like, is this gonna be
He was
like
literally
my miracle baby?
He was literally here for months, and it still didn't feel real. It didn't. It didn't. So
Until he started smiling, and then I started melting, and then she just buttered me up.
She did, and I saw her glow. I saw her, and she was just like, "Yeah, I feel it. I feel this love for him." And I kind of felt that. I was like, "Damn it! I still don't. I'm still not there yet. I still don't feel this thing that." But I was just happy to kind of see her there, see her connected, and see her kind of really loving on Caden. Like that. So, I wanted to really quick. So, when I'll take you back a little bit. So we originally, when we found out we were pregnant, we originally wanted a daughter. I had my own reasons. I just feel like daughter love. I just kind of felt that
Wasn't it around the time that Colby had passed? So like all the dads were posting girl dad things and videos.
It was. Yeah. So I had a natural kind of draw for more of a girl. So that's kind of what my hopes was walking in, and then I'm going to show you this video of our when we find out exactly what we're having. Check this out. So today is a special day for us. Today we find out
We're having a boy or a girl.
All right, so this is when we find out what we're having. Let's see.
You okay, buddy? Pretzel.
Oh, jeez. What is it?
It's a boy.
It's a boy, baby. It's a boy, baby.
Oh no, little Sammy.
That's okay. I'll take it. So we find out what we're having, and we find out
this was 10 weeks pregnant.
Yeah.
We did the NIPT test
Mm-hmm.
to make sure all the chromosomes and everything looked good. There were no concerns there.
Mm-hmm.
And it also gives you the gender.
So we find out what we're having, and we find out that we're having a boy. We're happy, but we're also a little disappointed. Right, just a little bit. We both kind of thought that it was maybe a girl, for our own reasons. But I would say, having
gender disappointment is real, and
Yeah.
I've read many other instances since then. But I would say what helped us get through that was we started looking at names immediately.
we did.
We narrowed it down to 2, and I think within a day or 2, we were like, no, this one's the right one for him.
It was.
So then when we could start referring to him by name,
Yeah.
that really helped us. And then I also went shopping and bought an outfit.
You did. So the name, my son's name is Caden Kamari Dorville, and then I let Cindy name him. So she narrowed down the names, and then we kind of felt like what felt like him the most. And then when I looked at the name Caden, it said fighter or battle. And that was just like kind of a reminder of, my life experience, and as a reminder to continue to keep moving forward, and things are just not going to be easy. But it was like it was symbolic of of our
And our journey
in
together.
our journey together, our long infertility journey. So it was like a culmination of all of those things that let us settle on Battle as his name.
And I forget what it really came up for Kamari, but it has some reference to the moon. And my name, Cynthia, is also like goddess of the moon or something. So that moon connection I liked.
Yeah. So that was
I
kind
have a
of
nice ring.
yeah.
Kaden Kamari.
That is what we call them. But so we got to this point where we finally get connected, and we finally reach this point of love, for our son, which was which took a while. So how did that feel to you?
I mean, once he started smiling and responding to just different things I would do, and he would giggle, like I just started melting.
Yeah.
And he still has that effect on me today at 3 years old. He can just look at me and give me a smile, and I melt. But he's just so silly, and
he has this
sweet.
effect on a lot of people. Actually, everybody kind of, the energy that he exudes, the happiness, the joy that he brings into any room is truly amazing.
Yeah, we block off our kitchen. We have a little gate so that they don't come in when we're cooking. And he'll come to the gate and be like, "Mommy, I just need to get in there to give you a hug."
He knows exactly what he needs to
He's
say.
so buttery.
Yeah, he butters you. You're done.
Yeah.
He butters you right up. So then now that was our birth story, and that was our becoming parents for the first time. But we still had some stuff brewing in the background with foster care, and that was very important to us because the twins, their case had kind of gotten pushed back a little bit longer, right? So we thought we're going to make this transition around like 3 or 4 months. And originally
it was supposed to happen
there's always
July. Kaden was born September. So we thought we'd have a couple months with the twins already here to adjust before Kaden was born. But that didn't happen. They didn't come until Kaden was past a year old.
Yeah.
So I mean, I do wish we could have gotten the twins earlier, because that amount of extra time with their other family did cause them more trauma in the transition. Obviously, being almost 2 is a lot different than being past 3.
Yes.
In terms of development and cognition and language, and that extra year that they weren't with us made it a lot harder for them to transition.
Yeah, so I would say that was, they're moving you from your bio parents to a foster home is one traumatic event, but moving you from the only home that you fully knew, even though we've been there since 11 months, right? We've been there a couple times a weekend, and watching them, and we had a stint where we watched them for a few months and stuff like that. They really knew us, but that last final transition from the other foster home to our home was a traumatic experience.
Yeah, it was literally like mommy and utter mommy, daddy and utter daddy. So it was confusing for them, and I think it's 2 years later, it's still difficult for them. So on one hand, I do wish they could have transitioned to our home earlier, but on the other hand, having that first year with Kaden alone where we could really focus on him was also a blessing, because we had tried for so long and we wouldn't have had that experience otherwise. So
yeah.
It's a catch-22.
It's a catch-22, but we're just gonna roll with the punches, and it is what it is. Some of this is, for the most part, it's not created by us. It's created by the system. The system truly has a lot of gaps and holes in it, and it's evident to us. And and the kids are in the middle, unfortunately.
But I would say the age gap, they're 23 months apart, has been amazing. Now that Caden is older, I mean, you would think they're triplets, and a lot of people do think they're triplets when they're in the stroller, but they play so well together.
Yeah.
I can't imagine Caden not having older siblings. He loves both of them so much. They love him. I think it's just a great relationship that they all have together.
Yeah. So
it's been beautiful to watch.
it has. So switching gears a little bit, talking about another subject topic that is quite important, because obviously we're in the foster care realm, which is standing in the gap. So what does standing in the gap mean to you?
It means, taking in whatever children that we see fit to our family when needed, and just loving on them, showing them God's grace and mercy and love for as long as needed, until their parents can hopefully, get things together to be able to reunify. And if not, then, helping facilitate adoption the way that, the twins' foster parents facilitated adoption for us, or maybe potentially adopting again in the future. We don't know what the future holds.
Yeah.
But just standing in the gap for as long as we're needed to help as many children as possible, because we want to minimize the amount of trauma that they experience, and give them a loving home and structure and whatever is necessary.
Yeah. So quite often when we are standing in the gap, we're not able to kind of share some of the situations that we're standing in the gap for, right? But since we have a adoptive and foster parent network, we're able to kind of share some of these stories about what this standing in the gap for looks like, right? So quite often we're standing in the gap for a mom that's homeless. We're standing in the gap for a mom that's a stripper, or a mom that's a drug addict, or a father that was killed. Right? So we're standing in the gap of some very troubling situations to create a safe place for these kids to land. Right. And that's something that's really near and dear to my heart, because I've seen, the types of environments and where, these kids come from.
Well, you had loving parents, but you still felt very unsafe in your environment.
Correct. Right. So I'm just trying to make all of the pieces come together to create an environment that just makes the most sense. Mm-hmm. Right. So one of the advantages that I have is when a kid comes into care, especially into our home, they come with a book called the CRR. Right? Do you want to explain what the CRR is?
It's the Child Resource Record, which just gives some basic information about the child. There's usually some of the court documents in there, so we'll find out the reason why they're actually coming into care, what mom or dad may have been going through. Gives medical history, just some basics, if we're lucky, if it's been filled in.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes it's empty.
Yeah. So a unique ability that I have is, after reading the CRR and finding out the reason that they're in care, and it's almost like I'm able to kind of place myself, through their experience, to kind of get a deep understanding of, where they came from, because I've seen, a lot myself. So understanding where they came from, or understanding the environment that their parents are also coming from, and being able to kind of speak and communicate to them in a way that they will kind of understand, and also know and understand that they're also coming from a very traumatic experience themselves, is quite important. It's just a little bit that makes us a little bit different compared to some other foster families.
Mm-hmm. And what's sad is that so many parents, you realize their children are in care, but they themselves at one point were in care. So you want to be able to help them break that cycle and get their children back and be able to give their children what they didn't have. So facilitating a relationship with the parents is also important to us. We want the best for them as much as we want the best for the children in our care. So I think that's another thing that's important.
Yeah. So, thank you. Hopefully you're enjoying this content. We will dive into a lot more marriage and communication type of content, but we really wanted to kind of give you a sense of who we are in the background so you can kind of understand our story, understand what we're about. So, till next time.
Thanks
Peace.
for tuning in.
Thank you.
If you're interested in more of our content, please hit like and subscribe.